What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another interview here on Top Rope Writing. My name is James Lascuola, and today I am speaking to a man that is nearing one of the biggest weekends of his career thus far, taking the action down to the H2O Wrestling Center in New Jersey for a big Halloween weekend bash of sorts. He is the S.O.N. of an S.O.B, Ron freaking Bass Jr.
Sup, brother? You gave me just such an intense welcome, and I'm just vibing right now.
Oh man, I love it. But Ron, how are we doing tonight?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. I mean, I gotta say, I love the big men of pro wrestling, and you definitely are up there with with a bunch of my favorites of wrestling right now.
Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Somebody likes me around here, so I'll take it.
Listen, you and Hardway might call yourselves nobody's favorites, but like you guys are definitely two of my favorites.
Thanks, man. Fun fact. Let me just throw a slight not correction. Let me just throw a slight edit into that statement. For your listeners who don't know, nobody's the group collectively known as nobody's favorite is our version of the BSK, like the Undertaker group, where
Hmm.
they were a group but then not a group, but also like you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, I totally get you.
And it currently comprises of we people just started using us as like an actual team recently just to do some one-off stuff. It may turn into more, who knows, but it currently consists of myself, Hardway Heater, Hoodfoot, Mose. For those of you that don't know Mose, he does commentary over at TWE Action. He's done GCW commentary. He's been all over. And one we we call it he's on the Legends contract. The Legends appearances contract of nobody's favorite is Cole Radrick.
Honestly, that's a group full of favorites right there. I gotta disagree with the name, man. That is a
So
group.
no, sorry, yeah. Full disclosure. Let's talk about it off rip. Why we call ourselves nobody's favorite. Um, we understand because here's the thing when we first started calling ourselves nobody's favorite, it was before any of us were really booked a whole lot. It was before Hoodfoot, started doing his death matches and become a fucking superstar. It was before, Heater tragically broke his neck, but then had a fucking his had a crazy comeback since then. It started as just the three of us. It was the first time I had ever wrestled in the Midwest. Shout out Paradigm Pro Wrestling. It was no hook tapings. It was UWFI contenders and no hook tapings. So we do UWFI night one. And then after the show, me, Heater, and Hoodfoot are all staying at somebody's house. We all stay at the same person's house. And we very quickly we became the best of friends that night. And we've been calling ourselves nobody's favorite since that night because sure, like people like us as people, but at the time it wasn't translating into the way we were booked, even though we were wrestling just as well as everyone else that was getting booked more than us. The premise of being nobody's favorite. Actually, let me see if I can find the tweet because I have it bookmarked. It's a Hardway Heater tweet that explains it pretty much perfectly. What it means. I just have to find it in my bookmarks. I should have had this pulled up, but you're asking me the questions, not the other way around here. I'm not as prepared. Let's see. Hardway Heater. And if I don't have it bookmarked, I'm gonna be upset, and I'm gonna butcher this explanation. Here it is. So being nobody's favorite, it's not a title, it's a work ethic. Even if you are somebody's favorite, work like you're not.
Wow.
That's
Actually, wow.
that's the premise of nobody's favorite is that no matter how much people like us, no matter how much people like us as people, as wrestlers, whatever, no matter how much you say you like us, we're gonna wrestle like you've never met us before because it doesn't matter. Like another way that I've described it is we wrestle every show where like we haven't been booked for the next one yet. Every match is a match to get booked again. Every match is a match to keep our jobs. That's what being nobody's favorite really is.
Damn, you opened me up to this whole new way of thinking, man.
Hey
Wow.
man, that's what we do. That's what we do, baby.
Well, to kind of bring this interview to its official start point, I mean, of course, by name, you are and of course, your dad being the legendary outlaw Ron Bass. You
Yes,
know,
that is real. That is real.
yep.
I don't know how many times. Look, I understand to an extent, but I don't know how many. Can I cuss? I already
Oh,
did, but am I allowed to just let it fly?
we're past the first minute on YouTube, so like take the wheel, man.
I don't know how many fucking times I have been asked, "Oh, is that a shoot? Is that real?" Yes. I understand there's some pieces of garbage that like to pretend whether they got permission or like what the deal is or whatever of being somebody else's kid, especially if they're dead. But what the fuck is wrong with people to where that's a question that has to be asked if I'm actually a dead guy's son or not? Like being second gen is not that important to me. Like if I was to be a wrestler and I wasn't second generation, being second generation doesn't really do that much for you at my level.
Mm.
Like we're gonna break the fourth wall here again for a minute. I love my father. He's my favorite. Like biasedly, he is my favorite wrestler in the entire world. I think he's the GOAT as because he's my father. But my dad's not a name that like I'm in a weird in between. Like I'm not I'm not I'm not Colby Carino. I'm not Brogan Finley. Like my dad's not Steve Carino or Fit Finley levels of well known or popular or over or like has done stuff on their level to like the casual fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm also not Joe Schmo whose dad was a local territory brother who only wrestled shindies for 20 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm at this weird like B plus area, or like I would say like this weird B minus area of like there's a decent section of fans and promoters and wrestlers that know who my dad is, but there's also an equal level who don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I was trying to get over being somebody's fake son, I'd pick a different wrestler. As shitty as that sounds, I want to name names because there's one in particular that I can think of someone who his gimmick is the son of a certain wrestler, uh, um, and he's not related to the person at all. Like he was trained by a guy who was trained by said wrestler. I don't know, man. It gets me hot. Sorry.
No sweat.
I got super philosophical and I got super fired up real quick.
Hey, no worries, man. We love it here, but like just
It's eventually it's just one of those things where like it's people that have booked me. People have booked like I've been booked for places, and then people on staff at these companies have been like, "Oh, that's real. Hey, man, why don't you just check? Why don't you just do your research? Why don't you just look?" My government name's not that hard to find. You can find me named in my father's obituary. Anyways, I'm sorry, bro. I'm
hey,
sorry, man.
no sweat, no sweat. Honestly, I love when like, my guests go off because that's less that I gotta talk and people gotta hear my voice.
So let me ask. On us talking back and forth, do you prefer like to be called like from a professional standpoint? Do you want me to be called James? Because your Twitter display name is my favorite display name on Twitter.
Honestly, I gotta be honest because I've gotten referred to as Biscotti by a few other people, which for those who don't know, you can find me on Twitter as Biscotti Pippin,
The
but
Scottie Pippen, the fucking god, my favorite, one of my favorite my favorite ones. Shout out because what it is I don't know if you're familiar with him on Twitter. He ring announces and he ring announces and does commentary in Texas. So Ricky Meats.
oh yeah.
So Ricky has his Twitter display name as a bunch of different food wrestling like puns. I don't know if you've ever noticed them.
Oh, I've definitely seen it because like I see the handle and then I look at the name, I'm like, wait, that's actually a good one, but that's the same guy.
But it's the same. Yeah, they're always different. I love Ricky. Shout out Ricky Meats. That's my guy. But yours is like out of all the ones that him and I have done, because I've given him some. He's like posted some that are great. But Scottie Pippen is still my favorite.
Oh man, honestly, whenever a wrestler or someone involved in wrestling brings up that I'm Biscotti Pippen, I always have to be like, oh God, is this a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh, it's a great thing for me at least.
Okay, yeah, I've yet to get the like, oh you motherfucker, like reaction, but like I'm glad
Right.
to hear it's a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. Game recognized game.
Oh man, much appreciated. But at the core of my first question,
Yes.
being your father's son,
Hmm.
did you always figure that you were going to get into professional wrestling?
No, I didn't. So the no, I didn't. I like it's this. I get asked this question all the time, but I always love answering it. Like I don't mind answering this one. So like I'm happy to get into this one. So the thing for me, I didn't even decide I wanted to wrestle. Like there, like deep down, probably I knew somewhere like in like the deepest recesses of my like trauma filled heart and brain, I knew I wanted to wrestle. But my decision to start wrestling didn't happen until after my dad died. So like uh it wasn't a thing for me to be forced into wrestling because sometimes you hear like you see these documentaries or every like documentaries or interviews or whatever where like they were like pushed it every like they were pushed into wrestling. It wasn't like that for me. Wrestling for me was very much just dad saying whenever you want to, we can go, we can figure it out. Like whenever you want to do it for you, not for me. So like I dipped my toe in it very brief, like twice. I dipped with dad. So we lived. For most people that don't know, I am currently based out of Tampa, Florida. I've lived here my entire life. Um, like since infancy. Some fun fact for anybody that doesn't know, I'm also adopted. So Ron Bass Jr. technically is my adopted father, but I was adopted like my adoption story is a whole another story for a different interview. You could make my adoption story into a Lifetime movie. That's the way I describe it.
Wow.
But so as an infant, like as a baby, I he's him and my mom are the only parents I've ever known. I've only ever lived in Tampa. This is my home. Like I don't have nothing. So I was like 18, 17, 18 at the time, and it was still FCW. FCW, the school, like the what was the performance center at the time, which was FCW, was still in Tampa. So I'd ask my dad to take me down there and hang out. Like Dusty Rhodes was doing guest coaching there, so I'd be like, "Hey, can we go see Uncle Dusty?" Because I used to call him that. Like I'd be like, "Hey, can we go down there and hang out?" And yeah, sure. So like I don't remember everybody meeting, like everybody I met there when I was like 17, maybe 18 years old, just graduated high school. Um, Big E, Big E was one person I remember being there, and then God rest his soul, Bray Wyatt was there. And I remember like when I did the tour and they talked to me briefly, it was cool. I talked football with them because they are football guys. It was super cool. And then later on, I went to a training with a local trainer here that my dad was friends with. Because dad wanted to oversee me being trained, and a bunch of other stuff, and wanted to make sure I was getting trained the way he wanted me to be trained. Which I get it. You want your son to you want your kid to like to do things the way you want, like you'd like them to be done. They want them to be safe, the whole nine yards. And then that gentleman had issues with his building, and I never went back. Just life got in the way. Dad, to kind of wrap this up a little bit, this portion up, dad passed away. I went on a real bad bender. Like I was an alcoholic for like a year and a half straight. Not like I had a problem as in like I had to have a drink, but if I was drinking, I was drinking. Like I could go days at a time without drinking, but if I started drinking, I'd get hammered, like a gaijin in Japan, hammered. So I woke up one morning, and I literally looked at myself in the mirror, and it was like, "Hey man, get your shit together." So that day, I emailed a local school that was known at the time as the Tampa Bay Pro Wrestling Academy. They sent me the info. This was like August of 2018. So they had just started a new class. So I had to join the next class, which was January 3rd of 2019. And that is a school that was at the time run by Jay Lethal and a local, like a local vet, like 20-year vet by the name of David Mercury. Love them to death. The school is now called the Wrestling Lab, and it is, the trainers are David Mercury, Jay Lethal, Matt Seidel, and Big Con of the Ascension.
Whoa.
Yeah, so we got a who's who.
Well, most definitely. But, you kind of mentioned on the early onset of this interview, there are definitely those who are aware of your family name as much as those who aren't. But do you personally feel any generational pressure on you as a professional wrestler?
Yes. So to an extent, I feel like every like most second generation wrestlers, there's a pressure there. I think for some of us, it's more of a like an internalized pressure. Like for me, like me personally, like I'm sure for like I said before, there like I think like generational wrestlers, there's levels to it. Like the pressure from the outside on guys like Brogan and Colby, Kerry Morton, guys like that, it's definitely there, like 1,000%. Like the pressure on those guys is probably it's there way, like honestly, it's there way more than it is for me. There's some pressure on me, but I think more of it's like it's inward. Like I put a pressure on myself of like, hey, you still have to carry your dad's name properly. Like, hey, you can't act like an asshole, even though I still act like an asshole sometimes. Like, there are definitely, especially like old school, like a lot of Southern promoters that know who my dad, they have an expectation of me. Even gimmick wise. So like when I stopped doing the cowboy stuff, like I still wear my boots, which are like my wrestling boots are cowboy boots. It's just regular wrestling boots are way too expensive, and I don't have the money right now. But when I stopped wearing the leather vest and did the cowboy hat and all that stuff, like a lot of guys were like, man, you don't do the cowboy stuff no more. You ain't like you don't try to be like your dad no more. And it's like, I mean, I did. It was great. I feel like I've derailed from the main point, but it's like the pressure is there. But after a certain point, you have to realize like I'm trying to as much as I love being my dad's son, I have to find my own lane. Like I have like the pressure is always going to be there, but when I look at it at the point of I'm no longer trying to be my dad's kid and I'm trying to be me, it's easier to manage.
Oh man, much respect to you though for doing that, because really I feel like this year, just from a spectator standpoint, we've really seen you carve out that lane, whether you're making your appearances in companies like GCW and Naptown, or you're making your usual appearances in Paradigm, or carving out a spot for yourself in H2O. I mean, how would you describe this past year of your career?
Oh, this year has been equally probably the biggest shift in my career, like shift upwards, but also on a personal level, and like it's also been my hardest year. So like I've done a lot of cool shit this year, like you said, like wrestling at Big Gay Brunch for GCW, top 3 moment of my year so far, winning the H2O championship, like championships, tag championships with Sawyer, one of my best friends in the entire fucking world. Like again, top 2, top 3. Um, getting to introduce Nobody's Favorite as an actual in ring performance like group with Heater and Hoodfoot at Naptown. Fantastic. Traveling with one of my best friends from Florida in the entire world, Daniel Starling. Like those are things like they can't be taken from me, and it's definitely like this is like I know I'm about to turn the corner on everything else. Like I'm coming towards the corner. This is what like I tend to ramble, so I'm gonna apologize in advance to the listeners. I got ADHD real bad, and I don't take no medicine for it. I should have been taking medicine for that since I was a child, but that's a whole nother thing. Like all of these moments that I've had that I just listed are pushing me towards the corner, and I know I'm about to turn the proverbial corner, and things are about to I'm about to hit the corner, and I'm going to hit the corner fucking hard, and things are going to only get better from here. But the closer I get to the corner, it's also there are parts of my life where I'm closer and closer to rock bottom in a lot of ways. So like I don't want to pretend like everything's all sunshine and rainbows. Like I've had some good times this year, and I've had some very bad times this year.
And I appreciate that, you're able to, bring up and talk about the bad times as much as the good times. But I want to focus in on the highlight end, where you mentioned that you had sort of a top 3, with debuting at Big Gay Brunch being in that list. But what would you consider the top highlight of this year?
Of this year, man, I'd have to see it, like, because what's gonna happen is I'm gonna pick top 3. I'm gonna pick like the number 1 highlights of the year, and then I'm gonna remember some shit, and I'm gonna go, wait a minute, no, that was pretty cool. Maybe that should have been top 3. So like, off the top of my head, all of my stuff at like, I don't want to be, I don't want to cop out, but all of my stuff at H2O, I'm really happy with, and I'm really proud of. Like, it took me a lot longer than it should have to get to H2O. And when I say that, I mean in the sense of like not because Matt never wanted to bring me in, or I never wanted to get there. It was just like the universe wasn't ready for it. Wasn't ready for me to be there. a human being that doesn't exist in the world of pro wrestling anymore, low key keeping me from being there by saying things about not belonging there, things like that, like like whatever it was. So I'm gonna put everything in the H2O bubble on like in the top three. Obviously, there's that. Big Gay Brunch is up there, obviously, because I came out earlier this year. I think right after my birthday, my 30th birthday, is when I publicly came out somewhere around that time. And I just happened to be in Chicago. Shout out Effie, one of my favorite human beings. I was helping with Starcast and I saw Effie in the lobby. And I was showing Effie to his room because the guy that booked the rooms for Effie and some other people, I was like his assistant for the weekend. The three of us were walking down, and Effie was telling us about things that changed in the show. And the guy was like, "Oh, well, you have Ron this weekend," and it was like a light bulb went off in Effie's head because Effie's a fucking genius. And Effie was like, "You're right, I do have Ron. You're booked, pal." And that was literally like 2 days before, or the day before, something insane like that. And then number one, most people aren't gonna understand. Like no one's gonna really understand from like you look at all the cool shit that I've done, and this is like a top three moment for you. But we have it's mostly Florida based. And I just defended it at H2O against Gigi Everson. But we have an internet title that started down here. That means a lot to me, funny enough. Because when I was a young boy, I was still a trainee. There's a guy from our school that had this belt for like almost 3 years. It's the Wrestling Nerds Radio Network internet title, just the WNRN internet title. And it was held by someone from the school who like he's one of like Jay's first students. He's an incredible wrestler. We all look up to him. His name's Hunter Law. And Hunter took this belt and made it mean something. At least like in our scene, in the Florida scene, he defended that belt everywhere. He defended it against Effie. I'm about to like a little bit of a deep pool. Saeed Al Sabah, like
Oh yeah.
yeah, like Saeed, Effie, a bunch of like the guys that we all looked up to. He took that belt everywhere in Florida. But Hunter didn't do any internet stuff with it. He just made it a workhorse type of belt. And then it got bounced around a little bit. Then COVID happened, and then it got passed around the Northeast a little bit, and then it was only a silly internet belt. It went from being a super serious belt with a little bit of internet tendencies to only an internet belt with no physical tendencies. So being able to be the ones like, hey, we want to put this on you, we want to give you this belt and let you run with it, because to them they see me as someone who's willing to do both. Like I can absolutely carry this belt and defend it against the best of the best, but I'm also, anybody that has seen the content I put out, I'm also not afraid to do silly internet type things. So that's cool for me because like I always looked up to Hunter and I saw what Hunter could do with the belt, and I feel like I could do the same thing, but then step it up a little bit.
Oh, most definitely, man. I mean, I will say, I think, yeah, that match you had with Gigi at H2O 200, I feel like that was my first time in a while of actually kind of like seeing the belt and be like, oh, wait, I remember seeing that somewhere.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I remember that. Yeah. To win that belt, I beat Ziggy Haim in rock paper scissors. That's the silly shit. That's the not silly, but like that's the entertainment part of it. It's an internet belt. You got to do dumb shit for the internet sometimes. Like one of my friends tried to steal it from me, and then the Pink Panther music just started playing out of nowhere, and I was real confused. I was looking around. I was like, why is the Pink Panther music playing? I turn around. He tried to steal it from me. And then I was able to push him away. Chael Sonnen style. I can't let you get close.
Oh God.
But yeah, if I had to pick those three, like if I had to pick three, Big Gay Brunch, the internet title, and then anything H2O related, because I've done a lot at H2O this year that I'm, again, very, very proud of. Tagging with Tremont in my debut, winning the tag belts with Sawyer, pretty much only losing like in my like 5 or 6 matches I've had there, only losing once. And it was when I defended the belts by myself, like at a disadvantage, and I barely lost. Like I can hang my hat on all that. And then like leading up into me, like the biggest match of my career, my young career, pretty much what's going to be forever the biggest match I've ever had. I get to wrestle Matt. I get to wrestle Matt fucking Tremont. Like that's insane. You know what I mean? That's crazy.
And not only do you get to wrestle Matt, but I mean, you're also going to be taking player part in a tournament of his namesake. And I
I
mean,
am.
just on that alone, like, how does it feel to be selected to enter such a tournament?
It's a privilege. It's an honor and a privilege, especially like let's especially I'm gonna pull up the entire field right now, and just gonna go through it because if you like, I don't want to be that guy that talks down on himself or nothing. But if you look at the entire field of this deathmatch tournament, I am definitely like like on paper I don't belong here in the sense of experience, like to an extent, like Tommy Vendetta, Mouse, MM3, Chondo, Declan, Heater, Mickey Knuckles, Tim, safety first, Tim Donst. Motherfucking safety first. Lucky 13, Bam Sullivan, Ross and Bradley, Danny DeMonto, even Sean Campbell. Like Sean has more hardcore deathmatch experience than I do. Mickey fucking Knuckles. I don't know if I said her name already, but I'm just gonna say it again. Mickey fucking Knuckles. Bam Sullivan. Danny fucking DeMonto. Lucky 13. This 16 person tournament is fucking stacked. And Ron Bash Jr. gets to be a part of it. That like Matt decided, you know what? There's a part of Ron Bass Jr. nobody has really fucking seen, and I'm gonna put him in this tournament. So even it like I think Matt sees something in me that I don't even know is there yet. And Matt's just like, you know what, pal? Fuck it. Here you go.
Man, huge opportunity, no doubt. And I mean, with such a killer's row of people in this field, I mean, we're talking people that have been in Tournament of Deaths. We're talking about people that have been in Insane 8 tournaments, people that have won other tournaments as well. But who do
The
you
yeah, the first Prince of the Deathmatch, Neil Diamond Cutter.
Oh man, just absolutely feels like a very much of a who's who and who's coming up of deathmatch wrestling. But who do you
Yes.
consider to be the one to beat in this tournament?
Oh man. You know what? I'm gonna talk my shit for a minute. I'm done. You know what? I was humble for a second. I'm gonna talk my shit. It's me. God damn it. You want to know why it's me? Because it's the tale as old as time. There is the least amount of footage on me in a death match setting. I have the most to prove and the least to lose. So if these motherfuckers think for 1 second I'm going to be a slouch in this tournament, I'm sorry it had to be them. Every last one of them. If I'm gonna be humble, I'm gonna be if I'm not gonna be humble, if I'm gonna be humble, I'm also gonna be biased. The chip on the shoulder of Hardway Heater is unparalleled. The man had almost a year the man had a year of his life taken from him in wrestling and almost never came back and has done nothing but put on let's just in death matches has put on performance after performance against the likes of the lifers of John Wayne Murdoch, a who's who of human beings. So if it ain't me, it's Hardway Heater.
Man, strong points for both. I mean, you're both bringing that nobody's favorite attitude into this death matchup, and I mean yourself being the wild card of this. It feels like in the best way possible, as well as Heater. Really,
I am the black sheep of this group. No disrespect to anybody, but I'm the one that doesn't like. If you look at this list of people, I don't fit here. And that's if people treat and if my whoever I end up wrestling in this tournament treats it that way, it's going to be a long fucking night.
and I mean, with such a list of names and the traditional H2O tournament format leading to a four-way finals, if you're to make it to that final spot, who are three names you hope to meet?
Ooh, that's I'm looking at the graphic right now so I can make sure I can get the names. If I had to pick the three opponents, obviously I would like to be in the finals with my best friend with Heater, with Hardway Heater. The current I mean, he's the champ for a reason. The current Danny Havoc hardcore champion, Bam Sullivan. Like, and then if I had to pick a final like fourth, it's a toss up between three people. No disrespect to anyone else, but you know, Danny's a legend in his own right. Neil Diamond Cutter and Mickey Knuckles are just OGs in this shit. You know what I mean? Like if I definitely, if I had to pick a final, I would love to face Heater, Bam, and then one of those three.
Man, that's a strong combination any way you put it. And I have to point out kind of strategically, I mean, even if you don't come out victorious. I mean, if you just eliminated Bam Sullivan, I mean, tradition says that a pin on the champ puts you right at the front of the line.
Hey man, I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. We'll get there when we get there. I appreciate you and I feel you. I've been talking enough of my shit, but I got to get through round one first. I don't even know who my round one is yet, so I got to get through round one first. My round one could have all of those people that I just listed in it. Who knows?
And I mean, before we even touch round one of this tournament, the night before at Bound by Blood, you have quite possibly the biggest match and challenge of your career yet, as you get to face the man himself.
Oh, it's not quite possibly. If you look at my resume, there is a who's who of people I've wrestled, but none of them touch Matt Tremont. None of them come close.
But being due for a date with the bulldozer Matt Tremont, what would a win here in H2O against the boss himself mean to you?
It solidifies me as a fucking threat. For anyone that hasn't seen it, this match probably wasn't going to happen, and then I just became a psychopath, and I stood in front of a camera and I told Matt Tremont he had to come see me. We tagged together. I've won a championship in his promotion. He's put me against his some of his best students, Ross and Bradley, Gigi, Mouse, etc. But he's refused to look me in the face and book and put a match between him and I together. So I didn't give him a choice. If I do anything good in wrestling, this is my personal opinion. If you think I'm bad at everything else, the one thing I'm good at is getting in front of a camera and making you feel every last word of what I have to say. And clearly Matt Tremont felt every word I had to say to make this match happen. I'm tired of just being a good brother. You know what I mean? I'm tired of being nobody's favorite. And when I say, and like I said, everyone says they like us, we're likable guys. But what is up until this point, what I've been doing done for me? It's gotten me some cool spots here and there, but I've had more, I've been ignored more than I've been replied to. Everybody has. I've had plenty of matches canceled that have never been rescheduled. I've never been brought back more times than I've been a repeat act. Wrestling Matt isn't just the biggest opportunity of my career. It's an opportunity to change the landscape of myself on the independent scene forever. Because if I can hang with Matt, I can hang with anyone. That's just a fact. If you look at Matt's career, if you look at his resume, if you look at every person he's ever stood against, it is a who's who, an array of different types of wrestlers, different talents of different levels and pedigrees. Like I said, me wrestling Matt can do one of two things for me. It can elevate me to a level that I haven't seen yet, or it can send me back to the little league. It can send me back to the minors. Like, hey kid, you're not ready yet. Come back later. And that's what this means to me. Wrestling Matt's not just wrestling an idol, but it's understanding I have to fucking be somewhere and Matt's in my way. And Matt can put me there. I'm sorry, Matt's not in my way, but Matt can put me there.
Man, first off, just huge respect to you for calling your shot, calling out the boss of the whole damn company and one of the big American deathmatch legends of the genre. And
sorry, my friend, I didn't mean to cut you off. Closed mouths don't get fed, and I'm tired of being a good fucking brother. Sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes you can say, "Oh, I wish." No, I will. I am. I asked. I didn't say, "Oh, Matt, I hope you accept this challenge." I said, "Matt, I need you to."
Now, despite this being billed as a hoss fight, I mean, how confident are you to hold your own against one of the American deathmatch legends if this match takes an ultra-violent turn?
I'm gonna do what I have to do. I'll be okay. I'm confident in I as nervous as I'm going to be every day leading up to this match. I've been in those positions before. I want to say July 9th or July 10th of 2021. Fatal 4-way doors ladder TLC whatever tag match. Myself and Freddie Hudson versus the Audi versus formerly known as Creature feature Adriel Noctis and Lazarus and the fucking Rejects. And it's the Rejects. So you know what happened? They brought some glass into the match. And those motherfuckers berated me tube after tube after tube after tube. And I looked them in the face and I fucking smiled. I'm more than prepared for Matt to take this to an ultra-violent turn if it needs to.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be one that anybody should be watching over on IWTV over Halloween weekend. But Ron, as we turn the corner on this interview, there's one thing I really want to point out that I love to see out of you, and that I love to see out of any of the big men from wrestling is that when they are in the ring and they're wrestling, they're not afraid to dive. And you, my friend, are 3 for 3 on the suicide dive, the tope
I'm
suicida, if you will.
I'm 2.5 for 3. I say 2.5 because I did catch my legs. I caught my shins real bad on a dive in New York.
Fair point, fair point. But overall, how did the suicide dive come into your arsenal of moves?
So here's the thing. I'm just a real adventurous motherfucker, all right? And I've been talking about this for a very long time. Like, if I'm in a match with enough people, I'm gonna do a dive because I don't trust people. Uh, the second time I did a dive, I just happened to dive. I dove on a brother that was bigger than me, so he's basically multiple people. And maybe again, this is peeling back the curtain a little bit, but if I'm diving on enough motherfuckers, someone's gonna catch me. If I dive on enough people, someone's gonna catch me. Even if it's only two of them, two people caught me and two people got killed. Shout out to Myron Reed though, because anytime I've done the dive, there's a clip that went viral of Myron who did a dive. I can't remember where it was. Myron does this dive and he pops up and he just yells at the top of his lungs, "I'm like that!" just over and over again. So anytime I hit a successful dive, I hop up and I go, "I'm like that!" just to shout out Myron one time. It's just one of those things. If you're gonna be dumb, then you got to be tough. That's where the dive came from.
Oh man, much respect to anyone that's given that shit a try, man. I mean, I hate generally like I'm not the most athletic man in the world, but I look at that and I look at myself and I'm like, damn, there's no way in hell I could do this shit.
Max, you'd be surprised, brother. I'm 6'4", 328 pounds, maximum effort. You can't like the key to a good dive is you can't hesitate. The minute you hesitate, you're dead. You're fucked. You have to just go.
Good tip, good tip. But as we bring this interview to a close, Ron, I mean, we've talked about your career this year. We've reflected. We've looked back on the good and the bad. But where do you want to be a year from now?
I just want to pay my bills with wrestling. I don't want to have this time next year. I don't care. Like working again, it's for me, it's about I love wrestling. I love this shit more than anything else I've ever done in my entire life. Like I was built for this. It's at least to me personally, it is obvious that I was meant to do this. But I also understand the reality of career trajectory. I don't expect to be signed by this time next year. I don't expect to be wrestling full time. Would it be super cool if it happened? Absolutely. But I'm not afraid to be realistic. On a realistic level, if by this time next year I don't have to work a full-time job, I'm more than happy. If I only have to work part-time and then I can wrestle the rest of the time, I'd be more than happy with that. Because this time next year, by this time next year, I'll have only be wrestling for 5 years. To do some of the shit that I've done in 5 years and to be able to only have to work a part-time job, that's pretty damn good to me. But some people don't even leave their states, like they don't even leave their local scene until after 5 years. I've wrestled in almost 10 states. Most of those done within the first 3.5. Like, I say I'm ahead of the game right now as far as I'm concerned.
Hell, and all that during a global pandemic too.
Right. Shout out Paradigm Pro Wrestling one time for just carrying. I'm sorry. I gotta talk about this for a minute. My ADHD brain bringing up the pandemic. Paradigm Pro Wrestling's UWFI Contender Series and No Hook seasons 1 and 2 carried independent wrestling through a pandemic as far as content production is concerned. And Paradigm isn't shown enough love and respect for it anymore. All right. I'm off my soapbox now. I just had to get that off my chest.
Oh, no lies detected, my friend. I mean, I gotta say, No Hook alone, I have not seen anything close to that production. And I mean, UWFI Contenders really had me hooked in, like we were talking early UFC stuff. Like it had me that locked in.
If you liked what Contender Series had to bring you, stay tuned. Paradigm's running the modern. When I say modern, it's the new spin on the UWFI Contender Series in January called Project Gemini. Just keep an eye out for it. They just put out the graphic in the submission form, for new talent to come in, because that's what Contender Series was like a tryout almost. It was an opportunity for people to come in and show what they really had if they had what it takes to hang in Paradigm. Ooh, excuse me. And that's what Project Gemini is going to be coming up as well. I'm always sorry. I know I've been all over Paradigm today, but that's my home away from home, man. I'm always gonna plug Paradigm forever. Paradigm looked at me as the fucking kid from Florida that had never really been anywhere and was like, you know what? Yeah, you're cool. We'll take you. Let's go. Let's see what you got. And if it's not for Paradigm in the Midwest, I probably wouldn't be where I am right now. Full stop. Like honestly, I owe Paradigm a whole lot.
Oh, well, Ron, seriously, best of luck on your future in pro wrestling as well as your future coming up at H2O. Thank you for coming aboard today. Please let the people know where we can find you, where we can support you. The floor's all yours.
Absolutely. That's very easy. Instagram and Twitter at Ron Bash Jr. My Facebook page is Ron Bash Jr. You might, if you find my regular government named personal Facebook page, no, you didn't. Yes, it has Ron Bash Jr. in there, but that's for when I add other wrestlers on their real life government personal pages so they know who I am. I have a link tree on my Twitter and Instagram bio, my Venmo and Cash App, all at Ron Bash Jr. / money sign Ron Bash Jr. If you're trying to, help me and my mom move, because my mom and I are that's a different story for another time. Mom and I are moving to the Midwest. This has been a long time coming. It's been a very difficult road. If you're trying to help us out, PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, or if you'd like something tangible, ronbashjr.bigcartel.com. Get yourself a piece of merch. I just put out 2 new shirts. They're very basic, but sometimes basic is good. With my slogan on the shirt, one is a white shirt with purple font, some lighter Halloween colors / for the femmes / the femme presenting / female non-binary fans of mine. You have something for that. And then for the Halloween, we've got the orange font with the black long sleeve. I'm sorry, it had to be you shirts.
Ron, thank you once again for coming by for this interview.
No, man, thank you for having me, for real.
Oh, man, thank you again. And thank you all for listening to another Top Rope Writing interview. Be sure to follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify Podcasts for more interviews coming down the pipeline. And if you want to hear more and read more from the world of Top Rope Writing, go check out topropewriting.com for our latest articles. Now, this is James Lascuola, and I will see you all on the next one.